Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And basically, this was a week that was completely dominated by one data breach, and we are obviously going to be diving into that one. And there were a few more out there, but quite frankly, that was the big one. And so, with that, another note, I'm actually recording this on Saturday, not Sunday. So, if some major, breach that dwarfed that one came out, that's why I'm not talking about it. And obviously, I'll pick it up next week. But as always, in data breach news, let's dive in. And let's start by thanking those that sent me this information. That would be Joe DiBiase, Frank Peterson, Max Morgan, and Gracie Jackson. Thank you very much for your help. And with that, let's come out swinging and talk about the big one, National Public Data, or NPD's breach. Now, they basically are a company that resells collected personal information for background checks, and they confirmed that a data breach leaked names, social security numbers, and physical addresses, as well as more information. Now, as reported by Bleeping Computer, one of the first to break this, dark web forum posters have been basically advertising and sharing supposed stolen data from the breach of these company systems for months without a statement or response from NPD. Now, finally this week, NPD published a security incident page confirming a few of the details, but left so many questions unanswered. Now, the incident is believed to have involved a third-party threat actor that was trying to break into them essentially in late December of last year, with potential leaks of certain data in April of this year and then throughout the summer. Now, the information that was suspected of being breached contained names, email addresses, phone numbers, social security numbers, and mailing address as well. This massive leak reportedly included 2.9 billion rows of data for a still unknown number of people. And analysis of files posted to hacking forums by Have I Been Pwned, basically they are showing inconsistencies in how the data is basically linked to specific people. Now, NPD said it, quote, cooperated with law enforcement and governmental investigators and conducted a review of potentially affected records and will try to notify you if there are further significant developments applicable to you, end quote. Now, their website does not report how many people have been affected, offer any kind of compensation to those people whose information has been leaked or linked to this, or provide any avenues of direct contact for more information. It also warns people to keep an eye on their credit reports, and that's essentially about it. That's what we've got. But there's more to this because we've got to dive in. But first, we're going to start our mini segment. You know where this is going. And the mini segment is, if you just spent money on cybersecurity, you wouldn't be getting sued. You wouldn't be losing your reputation. And of course, we're starting with NPD because basically, in a blink of an eye, they are now facing multiple proposed class actions after that data breach, and apparently one suit claims it leaked nearly 3 billion files containing personal data on people in Canada, the US, and the United Kingdom. And that obviously is including names, home phone numbers, addresses, all that kind of stuff that we talked about. One of the first suits to be basically reported on was a proposed class action filed on August 1st by California resident Christopher Hoffman in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida. Now, basically, the suit is alleging that this hacking group called USDOD, that's why I didn't mention it before, posted a database on April 8th called National Public Data on a dark web forum, claiming to have the personal data of the 2.9 billion individuals and attempting to sell it for $3.5 million US. Now, at least 6 complainants have now been filed, or rather complaints have been filed against the company just in this month alone. And so here's where this gets interesting, because Hoffman said in his suit that the company obtained and stored his data without his consent. Because people don't knowingly give their data to this company, it's hard for any individual to know whether they've been affected by the breach. And so the suit claims that the company, quote, has still not provided any notice or warning, end quote, to Hoffman or other people affected by this breach. And he's absolutely right. This is essentially a data aggregator selling our personally identifiable information to God knows who. And this is one of the things that, quite frankly, governments around the world need to crack down on. This kind of data mining should be illegal. And quite frankly, if they don't have good security controls around it on top of that, here we are. And so my data, your data, all of our data is out there. Now people are saying, oh my God, the sky is falling. Our social security number is out there. You know how many times my social security number has been out there and your social security number has been out there and all of ours? I mean, thank you Equifax for that one back in 2017, not to mention other breaches. I mean, this is kind of same as it ever was. And that sucks, but we have to move on to our next lawsuit, which is T-Mobile. Now, T-Mobile has agreed to pay a $60 million settlement over the alleged data breach violations, which is the largest fine by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. Now, according to several outlets, T-Mobile failed to disclose and take action against data leaks that occurred after its $26 billion merger with Sprint back in 2020 basically came to fruition, and therefore it violated a national security agreement for the merger. A spokesperson from T-Mobile said the incident happened because of technical issues the company experienced during its post-merger integration, and the breach did not impact customer information. But that said, T-Mobile is one of those ones I've been reporting on multiple times over the years, like Marriott and some of the others. So here we are. We'll see what happens, but heads up, if you're a T-Mobile customer, you may be entitled to compensation at some point. Moving on, the city of Columbus. If you remember, I talked about them a short while ago. A law firm representing 2 police officers, against the city of Columbus is now seeking to expand its class action lawsuit on behalf of private individuals who were impacted by a data breach following essentially this ransomware attack. And this is from this past Friday. Now, Spencer Meador, an attorney with Cooper Elliott, basically said this past Friday that they are expecting thousands of people to become plaintiffs. So if you live in the city of Columbus, heads up to you, you may be compensated sooner than later. Moving on, we're going to end our mini segment because if they had just spent money, they wouldn't be getting their reputations damaged. They should have had better cybersecurity. I can't even speak today. It's been a long day, for the record, trying to get everything done in 2 days and 1 day here. So here we are. With that, let's keep moving and talk about the city of Muncie, as in Muncie, Indiana, Jared Gergage's favorite place to visit, if you know the reference. Now, they announced that certain W-2 documents for their employees had inadvertently been emailed to an unintended recipient, and basically that caused what they called a, quote, sophisticated social engineering scheme. And so essentially, here's what we are. Somebody fell for phishing, apparently. On July 12th, Muncie discovered that information within these documents may have been given to somebody that should not have had access to it. We're talking first and last names, as well as social security numbers. So if you're living in Muncie, odds are your stuff's out there twice this week. Now, Muncie said they immediately reached out to law enforcement. They're conducting an investigation that they completed on July 15th. And so here we are. I fully expect them to be sued, as I do everybody else I'm about to talk about. Next one is Ambulance. That's Ambu, L-N-Z. I'm guessing some funky modern take on ambulance. Anyway, on August 13th, Ambulance Holding filed a notice with California after discovering unauthorized access into their infrastructure, and essentially sensitive information belonging to patients of Jefferson Health, Mainline Health, Mount Sinai Health System, and UC Health were all affected. We're talking patients' names, social security numbers, dates of birth, address, and medical information. Upon completing their investigation, they are sending letters out as well. Moving on. Let's talk about Rodal and Partner. There's an umlaut over the O, so you tell me how that's pronounced. Now, on August 12th, they filed the notice, basically a data breach on behalf of Jamestown LP and its affiliate JT Tax Services after discovering they got hit as well. Now, Rodal explained that the incident resulted in an unauthorized party being able to access consumer-sensitive information, including names and social security numbers. Like I said, everybody's freaking out about NDP. I'm talking about this every single week. Now, upon completing its investigation, Rodal began sending out notifications as well. Moving on, Yukon Health. On August 13th, they basically filed notice with Health and Human Services, Office of Civil Rights, for a HIPAA breach, discovering suspicious email activity. Now, in this notice, Yukon Health explained that the incident resulted in an unauthorized party being able to access consumer-sensitive information, names, dates of birth, social security numbers, driver's license, financial account, medical treatment and diagnosis info, prescriptions, and health insurance information was all caught up. Yukon is sending those out. So if you're a Yukon patient, heads up to you. Moving on, let's head on over to Luxembourg for the chemicals and manufacturing giant known as Orion SA. They are telling U.S. regulators that they will lose out on around $60 million after they were targeted by a criminal wire fraud scheme. Now, the description of the incident taken from their 8K filing to the SEC suggests that this was a business email compromise scam, although they did not use that term explicitly. Quote, on August 10, 2024, Orion SA determined that a company employee who is not a named executive officer was a target of a criminal scheme that resulted in multiple fraudulently induced outbound wire wire transfers to accounts controlled by unknown third parties. As a result of this incident, and if no further recoveries of transferred funds occur, the company expects to record a one-time pre-tax charge of approximately $60 million for the unrecovered fraudulent wire transfers. God, imagine being the person, probably in accounts payable, that just lost your company $60 million. That is a bad day for Orion. That is a bad day for that person. Not good. And I hope they're okay. But heads up to you, if you've got stock or investment in Orion, you guys are taking a loss. Moving on. This is an interesting one. Let's talk about conservative media outlet, The Washington Times. Apparently, a ransomware gang claims to have hacked The Washington Times and is threatening to auction off its data. Now, the group Rhysida announced in a post this past Tuesday on its site on the dark web that it would make the information available to the highest bidder in 1 week. Quote, with just 7 days on the clock, seize the opportunity to bid on exclusive, unique, and impressive data. Open your wallets and be ready to buy exclusive data. We sell only to one hand, no reselling. You will be the only owner. And so the reason why this is an interesting one is because we are going through basically a politically contentious time. And when you've got a news outlet, I don't care if it's liberal, conservative, center, whatever it is, they might have sensitive information such as whistleblowers talking to reporters or anonymous sources talking to reporters that may be in this data. They may have drafts of exclusive stuff that they were going to publish that they're still working through or decided to quash or whatever that is. And so it may give a real insight into, let's say, dirt on Trump or Harris or RFK or who knows. These are things that I think are deeply concerning, in the same way that I think all journalism should be sacrosanct. I recently did a segment on that as well. And so that's obviously a huge thing. And finally, and for the record, like I said, it was honestly just a short week. I went looking, but NPD was the whole thing. So we just ripped that Band-Aid off. I actually want to talk about something that's not quite a breach, but I think it's a good place here to discuss this one because I don't think it warrants its own news segment. And that would be Twitter/X. Now, if you recall, essentially, earlier this week, Elon Musk, owner of X, formerly known as Twitter, decided to have a live stream event with Donald Trump. Obviously, everybody knows Donald Trump, former president, running for president, et cetera, et cetera. Now, they had serious issues with bandwidth, all this kind of stuff. Trump, for example, sounded very slurred, and there's been debate on, well, was he actually just slurring his words, or was there some kind of, streaming issue and all of that? Elon Musk had issues, and so Elon Musk came out and basically publicly said that, hey, this is a denial of service attack that essentially Twitter is suffering, and so by virtue of that, this is why it's degraded. In other words, it's not us. Somebody's just trying to ruin the fun by trying to knock out the site and knock out the infrastructure. Now, I think, and this is my opinion, that if the issues that X had for the Trump live stream were actually a denial of service attack, I'd be seriously shocked. Now, here's why. So a live session like the one that they just did is going to be essentially a container. And I'm not trying to get technical because my technical audience will understand what containerization is. But essentially, it's like a container of sorts within the Twitter infrastructure, meaning only Twitter users could gain access into the room itself. Now, they might have a third-party live stream that's broadcasting out, but that would be a separate entity. The actual room that housed everybody that could listen live, as well as the two speakers, Musk and Trump, that is essentially a container within their infrastructure. Therefore, this streaming of their conversation and the people listening was actually inside and behind the perimeters of Twitter or X's public-facing infrastructure. And so by virtue of that, there may be no public IP address or infrastructure to glom onto and therefore attack. And so that brings us to the other point, is that the rest of Twitter, meaning the Twitter that you and I use, because I didn't join that live stream, but I could tweet out, I could read tweets, I could search, I could do all this kind of stuff. Twitter itself, X itself, did not experience any issues, because essentially the attackers would have to hit the public infrastructure to basically hit the live container that everybody is doing essentially this session, this Trump-Musk session in. And so the fact that normal Twitter wasn't affected really indicates that this wasn't a denial of service attack. So in my opinion, Elon Musk is simply making an excuse here for the poor performance of Twitter, aka X's infrastructure. And for the record, he probably shouldn't have fired the legion of infrastructure engineers and thousands of other employees that Twitter actually needs to keep running properly And I think that's essentially what happened here. They have been scaling back on their infrastructure to save costs because Elon Musk has been losing his shirt. And by virtue of him losing his shirt, here we are. And I think that's what happened. They just basically hit the cap. They hit the bandwidth cap and the session traffic cap. I'm sure they did, and that's probably what it was. So despite all of his machinations about how they are totally ready for this, I think that's what happened. And if you recall earlier, they tried to do a launch event for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis when he was running for president, and they ran into the exact same issues. Musk has been cutting infrastructure and staff to the bone, and it shows. So here we are. Those are my thoughts. I'm sure the Elon Musk fanboys, if they get this far into the video or podcast or radio segment, I'm sure I'll hear some choice words, but that's my take. Take it for what it's worth. But a denial of service attack on a containerized, basically a containerized meeting system inside a perimeter of a public facing system, and the public facing system didn't go down, something's rotten in Denmark. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private. Thanks, everybody.